Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the Corsair K95 Platinum XT, a new and updated version of Corsair's flagship mechanical gaming keyboard. And this is an unboxing video to talk to you a bit about the K95 Platinum XT, what's in the box, the specifications, which I'll leave in the description below as well, and what it's like as initial impressions. I'm going to do a versus video to compare it with the original K95 Platinum and a more close-up review of the device. I wanted to talk to you about why I think this is great and talk about the various highlights and improvements to this keyboard. Now, the K95 Platinum XT is obviously the premium keyboard from Corsair, and it is pretty expensive, but it is very nice from my use so far. Now, this is a keyboard that has Cherry MX RGB keys on it, and this time I've gone for blue switches because I'm going to try them out on this keyboard. So you get to see and hear that a bit later on. I'll do an ASMR style key press video that just shows off the glorious sounds of this keyboard, but if you want to see a bit more in-depth view of the entire thing as it comes out of the box, then stick with me. Now, this keyboard supports some pretty decent specifications that include 100% anti-ghosting with full key rollover, a USB pass-through port, 8 megs of onboard storage with up to 5 different profiles, as well as iCue compatibility, the usual RGB joy, and ultra durable PBT double shot keycaps. So that's a change from the previous model, and something that I'd played around with when purchasing some white PBT keycaps as an aftermarket purchase for my previous keyboard, and you'll get to see those if you look at the Versus video, and you also briefly saw them at the beginning of this video. Now, inside the box you get the keyboard itself, a leatherette wrist rest, which is very comfortable, also different to the K95 version before, and some keys that you can swap out. You'll notice on the left hand side of the keyboard as we dive into this video, there are a number of G keys. These are intended as macro keys that you can program within the iCue software. But now you also get these S keys, which are blue ones that you can swap out for the G keys. And they're textured and have this blue finish to them that stands out. And I quite like the blue stuff, so I've actually swapped those out and you get to see that later on. Here you can see the leatherette wrist rest, which is padded and very different to the previous model, which had like a rubberized key rest instead. But this is still remarkably comfortable and possibly easier to clean. Only time will tell. So far it hasn't managed to get too dirty. Been using it for a couple of weeks, probably about 3 weeks now. Really enjoying it just as much as I enjoyed the previous keyboard. Now, the thing about the K95 Platinum is it is a premium keyboard with an aluminium brushed backplate, a sort of sturdy design to it, and some nice features that include, as you'll see, media keys and a volume wheel in the top right. Obviously you have those programmable macro keys on the left, some very nice key sounds, a very comfortable design, and I really like the textured keys that I'll show you, not only on the macro keys but in WASD position as well a bit later on. As standard it comes out of the box with the double shot keycaps. Underneath you'll see there's room for some cable management if you so wish to do so, although you'll note the keyboard cables themselves are thick at the top, but perhaps you could run a mouse cable through here if you wanted to do something like that. There's a pass-through port at the top that I'll show you, so you could in theory run something through there to the bottom of your desk. The wrist rest just clicks into place like that nice and easily, and it comes on and off if you so wish. Now, opening the packet, you'll see you get a key removal tool and a number of other textured and slightly shaped keys, which are actually one of the reasons I really like this keyboard. I generally touch type and touch game, so you put your fingers in the WASD position, but sometimes it's quite easy to accidentally move and put your fingers in a different place. These textured keys make it easier to sort of identify just by feel where your hand is, and you'll note a slight slope on them that I'll show you a bit later on. When they're installed, you can then fathom where your fingers are. It also stops your fingers from sliding about in the heat of battle if you're playing. The removal process for the keycaps is really easily too. You can pop them off with your finger, or you can use the little tools. It's quite an easy process. You can see you can install WERASDF as a simple one. There's also a Q, R and F key that you can use too. And you'll note, as I said, there's a slight slope on the macro keys on the left hand side. You can program those. They're also textured. Very nice look and feel to them. The PBT double shot keycaps as a standard have a sort of very slight texture to them. You might be able to see in the video. It's a bit difficult to put across probably, but they're a bit more of a high quality key than you're used to perhaps, and they add a premium feel to it. One thing that it does detract from, I noticed, and I'll show a bit nearer the end, is the RGB lighting sometimes from certain keys doesn't glow through as nicely. I noticed a similar problem with the recent Razer keyboard that I was looking at, the Huntsman. However, I haven't had this problem with the white PBT keycaps that I had on my previous keyboard, so I'm going to put them on this new keyboard and see what that looks like a bit later on, and perhaps I'll do another video on that as well. They're a really nice extra purchase. You can fill the keyboard with glorious white and have a nice contrast in the black and white, and they don't dirty up after quite a bit of use as well, so it's really good. As I said, if you want to hear the key presses and see the keyboard a bit closer up without me waffling over the top, I'll do a separate video on that as well, and be sure to check that out. Here you can see a close-up of the keys. You'll note the slight arch to the D, A and W key, and those basically mean that you can feel the direction of where your fingers are going. Obviously A is usually used for left and D for right and W for forward in games. So the texture in a way that your fingers won't just slip off the edge. You have that slight ridging on them, and then the textured edges, which basically make it a lot easier to make sure your fingers stay in the right place. Here a close-up of the padded leatherette wrist rest. It's very comfortable. There's not a huge amount of padding on there, but it's just the right amount I've found. It's very comfortable, it goes mostly to the edge, and you get a nice bit of space for your wrists. Obviously you don't have to use this. It's easy enough to install and remove, so you don't have to if you don't want to. But I'm a big fan of wrist rests, and this one is a really nice one. It doesn't take up too much room. Here a close-up shot of the S keys. So as I said, those can be swapped out for the standard G keys, and another close-up shot of the keycaps from different angles, and you can see the raised edging on them, and I really think that's a nice feature, a very nice design to it. It'll be interesting to see how these hold up over time, especially with the textured WERASDF keys, because I found on the original K95 that the lettering wore off a little bit after a while, so it'll be interesting to see how these double shot keycaps stand up if they last a bit longer over time, but that's going to take quite a long while. I was using the K95 Platinum as my main keyboard for quite a long time, so this is going to take some wear before it gets to the same position. However, out of the box, as you can see, it is a very clean, fairly understated keyboard. There's nothing too in your face with it until you plug it in, turn it on, and even then it's not in your face. But there's no LCD screen like there is a SteelSeries Apex Pro, for example. Here you can see at the back the thick braided USB cable that comes out has two ports that I'll show you a bit later on to plug into your PC, one for lighting and one through the USB pass-through obviously as well. So you could plug your mouse into there, USB sticks or any other device that you wanted to. And there's really easy access as long as you've got enough space on your desk, of course. You can see the original K95 in the background of that shot as well. And here you can see the removal process for the G keys, relatively the same. You can take those off and swap them out with the S keys, get a slightly different styling. Now, as I said, this keyboard is programmable and tweakable within Corsair's iCue software. Unfortunately, because it's not actually been released at the time of creating this video. It's not compatible with the software yet, so I couldn't actually play around with those settings. However, if it does do the same as the original K95, it means you get per key RGB illumination. You can obviously program the macro keys and adjust various other settings on the keyboard to make it your own. And I do like the addition of these blue keys. The grey ones are nice, but the blue sort of adds an extra flair to it that wasn't there before. They have improved the USB setup as well. Note the new Corsair design on these USB connections it's a more modern design from what they've had in the past. The previous model had sort of grey bits on it as well. This is a much more up-to-date, nicer looking connection, but you will need 2 USB ports on your computer. Although you don't have to plug both of them in, you can just use one, but if you want to use the pass-through and make the most out of the keyboard, it's best to plug both in. You can see the labelling on that tells you what's what as well, so you can see one for the keyboard, one for the pass-through. So I suppose if you're not using the pass-through, you don't need to worry, but I like to have both plugged in just to make sure I'm making the most of the keyboard. And on the right hand side, another solid favourite of mine is a very nice textured metal finished volume wheel. You can easily adjust your volume, and the dedicated media playback button, so there's no need to press a function key and another key press, or a control on another key press like there is with other keyboards. You have easy access to be able to play your music, pause, skip, turn up, mute and all that other stuff right on the keyboard itself. In the top left corner, you also have the ability to switch between profiles, disable the Windows key, and adjust the lighting levels as well, so you can see the lighting a bit later on. There's some really nice lighting on this keyboard. It's probably not the best lighting I've seen. I've seen some pretty special lighting from Roccat Vulcan 122, and the SteelSeries Apex Pro also has some magnificent lighting. I recommend checking out those videos if you're really into your RGB. However, as a premium comfortable gaming keyboard with a really high quality design to it that's not too in your face, the K95 Platinum XT is so far glorious, and almost certainly a good way to start off 2020, and one I'll be enjoying for a long while. Now this has the blue switches on them. As I said, you can choose what switches you want when you're purchasing according to what actuation levels and response you like. Found the blue to be a nice level of noise and a good comfort, perhaps noisier than I'm used to. Mostly use red key switches, but the blue one's very, very good. Also, another highlight to this keyboard is I've not had any issues with it. On the previous K95, I've had some problems sometimes where a key press would get mimicked and it repeats sometimes unnecessarily. Not had that problem with the XT at all. That's been removed and is no longer an issue. So this is a very solid keyboard. Here you can see a close-up view of the switch housing, and that's where you're going to get most of your RGB lighting from. I was surprised by the design of it. It actually manages to give off a light of RGB lighting, but you can't see the LED in the same way on other keyboards. Perhaps not as garish. And here you can see the keys side by side as well. You'll note if you look at the control key, the slight texturing to it, and that's the difference with the PBT double shot keycaps. There's a very sort of slight texture to them. And another close-up view of the keycaps, and these textured ones, as I said, with the raised bits on them, are probably one of the favourite highlights to these keys for me personally. I am mostly an FPS gamer, and I do get sweaty hands, so fingers do slip around, and I am a clumsy buffoon, as you've probably seen if you've been watching any of my videos. So it's nice to have something that helps you keep your fingers in the right place. Here you can see the difference between the standard R button and the raised textured one, and on the right hand side is the aftermarket, well, they're made by Corsair, but the additional purchase of the white double shot PBT keycaps. Very different look to them. And you actually get 3 W keys in the box as well. So you can choose between it. Obviously you don't need to install those textured ones. You could just have WASD. You could even just have R. Up to you how you set it up. I really like the difference between it, sort of contrast on those WASD keys though. Looks really nice. You'll see here you get a choice of a D key with different angles as well, so you can set that up to your personal preference depending on what keys you like to use and where you like your fingers to sit when you're gaming. So all the usual keys for FPS games have the option of the textured goodness, the raised keycaps, and a very satisfying sound. It's also responsive, very responsive during gaming. I had no issues with it, and it's nice to use during the day. I've been using it daily for typing, video editing, all sorts of other things, and then at night for gaming and not had any problems. Here you can see the lighting as it comes out of the box. You can switch between various lighting profiles with the press on that button. On the left, the little man, that switches between your various profiles, and as I said, you can customize those within the Corsair iCue software. Unfortunately not something I can show at the moment because its keyboard is not recognized at the time of creating this video, but hopefully you will be able to use it. The original K95 was fully programmable in there. You'll see you have a variety of beautiful colors. You can turn that lighting off as well in various levels, and that there's a number of different levels that you can cycle through, or just turn it off if not in use. And you can adjust that within the iCue software as well, so you can have it so that you can set it so it comes on a different color to what it is as standard. And because it's per key illumination, you can illuminate certain keys in one color and other keys in another. So one other thing I like to do is perhaps highlight the WASD keys in a different color. Say if you have a blue background, you can have them in white or something to make them stand out again. And you can just jazz up your keyboard in various different ways. This keyboard does give a nice bit of RGB lighting. This is under quite a lot of lighting for video purposes, but still shows off a nice bit of brightness to it. It isn't too garish or shocking because you have the easy ability to adjust it and turn it off, and you can make it more subtle during the day if you want to, or even at night if you find it overpowering, but I have certainly not found that so far. And as you can see, glorious looking keyboard. One of the other things I've not highlighted just yet, but you might have noticed if you were paying attention, is the K95 Platinum XT has a light bar along the back of it. That has 19 zones of RGB. It doesn't represent a solid lighting across the whole way. You'll find there are areas that look like they're dark, especially if that light is reflecting off something. I've got a speaker on my desk that reflects off, and you can notice the areas where there aren't any colours, but it still adds that extra glow to your desk without being too in your face. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting or hilarious. Be sure to subscribe and check out these other videos, as well as taking a look in the description for links and other information you might find useful. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or anything you'd like to see extra about this, and have a great life.